Nature does not lie. Good afternoon, people. So I had a lot of this in my mind for a while, and I thought I would get it out there. Hi, Globehead. No more. How's it going? So where do I start? I think before I start on my own thinking, and I'll go over this because I think it's pretty cool. It's where I got the picture from, and there's actually more. This is on Flickr, and I thought I would give it a reading. The person who had that picture is Just Add Light, and the title of it is Nature Does Not Lie. And I was actually looking for some quotes, but I think that in itself is quote enough, and anyone can say it and it would be true. And he said, this is the following from Just Add Light. As I stand before the water looking at the light rays coming through the clouds, I hear the inner scientist, the student who for many years was told to disregard what I saw. For the language of science, mathematics had the answers. Disregard more than 100,000 recordings of light that you may have, said science. Your senses cannot be trusted. Science would then offer an explanation using mathematics. One day, I came to the realization that mathematics, being just a language such as any other, can be used to explain almost anything, and the only real truth is nature. Nature does not lie. These so-called savages who preceded science were somehow able to build things which cannot be explained. They were able to predict what our greatest computers fail miserably at predicting. Sorry, I missed it. So, the so-called savages who preceded science were somehow able to build things which cannot be explained. They were able to predict what our greatest computers fail miserably at predicting in their writings. Mere stories drawn on walls as savages do, demonstrated an understanding that we have yet to wrap our minds around, and they did so by living beside nature instead of attempting to control it. I look in front of me and I see 93 million lies. Even though the lens of our atmosphere, many have argued the validity of this mathematical concept. Great minds, which are the basis of photography, such as the revered and great Abu Ali al-Hassan. Over the past years, I've become closer to the belief that our world is not what it has been presented. It may call me a fool for rejecting what has become science, a dogmatic belief system which disparages any idea that questions it, seemingly going against the accepted scientific method. Some say that history repeats itself. I do not believe that this is a constant. However, if you do not change your direction, you will get to where you are going, and we are on the cusp of a dark age. People may try to pigeonhole me into some type of category or belief system. What they do not know is that they simply do not have that power. I see things for what they are, and I do not or will not be led blindly to the slaughterhouse. I return back to my initial statement. In fact, nature does not lie. The liar is man. So I thought that was a good piece. I may not agree with all of it, but it's beautifully written. It was well pictured by the camera, even though there's a little spot there. I don't know what that is. Blemish. So I was thinking, you know, everything I do, I try to get as close to the source as possible. And I realize that every time I get closer and closer to the source, and this is just looking up things that are written by the historians, by the controllers that are, whether it's government, whether it's science, whether it's educational system, whatever it is, I try to keep going. You know, there's an official story. That official story is written. That it is written in a .gov site, or it's written by some mainstream corporate media. It's written in some academic institute. So no matter what, the official story lies within whoever's trying to tell that story, that official narrative. So when I go investigate it, I'm investigating the official narrative, the story. The thing is, every official story has its holes, because if they're lying, there's gonna be holes into it. Um, 58 Paulette followed, donated 1 lemon. Thank you very much. That's on DLive. Globe had no more. Wow, that's a very strong article. Yes, thank you. That is pretty good. And I'm reflecting earlier because I visited Omaha with my family. We left early in the morning on Saturday. We got back pretty late last night, but on Saturday night I played poker live, cash table. It was fun. Didn't really win or lose anything. It was almost a waste of time, but I did bluff, and I bluffed with a 7 deuce suited. And the thing is, I planned to. Someone, the person, no one raised. Everyone called to me. The person that raised was the big blind, and so I think 2 other people called, and I called, and on a flop came something ace something. So it wasn't very strong. It checked all the way to me. I checked it. The person who raised initially checked it too. So I was like, okay, if there's any time, best time as any, I would go ahead and bluff it. And the thing is, on the turn came a club, so it made a possible flush. There 3 clubs now on the board, and this just went all right. Check. To me, I went and bet small, and I actually bet 35. I think in the pot of the raise was like 20, and the person who initially raised the beginning, he folded, and the other 2 folded, and all I did was flip over my cards, and it was a 2-7. And everyone at that point knew, okay, this guy's trying to be a little bit tough. But you know, that was on purpose. It's to get people to think of me a certain way. Therefore, the next time I play, they're less likely to fold. They're going to try to call me on an upcoming bluff. And all that night I was playing pretty tight anyway. So, you know, when I did get cards, I played it. People called my every time I put chips in, they called me. Even though they didn't really have anything strong. They just called me because they knew I bluffed. Now, I'm saying that because a couple of reasons. And it relates to a lot of things. And when I call people agents or trolls, it's most because you can't see their face, don't know their real names, you just hear their voice, they make videos, whatever. But the thing is, when you're out there and you're playing poker, there's a thing called a tell. And what a tell is you can tell if someone is possibly bluffing or has something good based on the reactions that you observed from them in the past and what they showed in their hand. For a lot of people, most people don't even think of go looking for a tell. And a lot of people, they try as hard as they can to not to reveal their tell. I've been pretty good at not even showing a tell. A tell is something that can be visibly seen. It's a psychological I guess recognition, or it's like I don't know how you call it. It could be a tick, it could be just something you unknowingly do all the time. Like every time you have not so strong hand, you may look at your cards again. You know, obviously it's not that good if you look again. But the thing is, some people take it to the extreme, is you also act like you don't have a strong hand when you have a strong hand. For me, and my brother does this too, is it's hard to tell our tells. Okay, when we're lying, we're just good at that. I think it's a tribute to our mother. My mother and my father, our father and mother lied all the time. We're able to figure it out. So we're able to tell lies and figure out when people are lying. And we understand it. And it's just something that humans seem to do. We don't see that in nature. Nature doesn't lie. There's no chaos in nature. Everything's ordered. It has a structure. Otherwise, we wouldn't really run these scientific experiments and things like that, or observations. Otherwise, what's the point of keeping track of all these observations and the stars? The Mayans with their Mayan calendar that can track up to eclipses up to hundreds of years into the future. What's the point of all that if at any time nature was lying and could change up things on a whim whenever nature wants? That doesn't occur. So nature is the one thing that does not lie. So one of the things I've been trying to focus on is, well, let's get back to the source. And so getting back to the source, where we even go to ancient religions, ancient mythologies, ancient written accounts, and they're going to have to tell it in the only context that they have learned from other humans, how to communicate with each other better. And that is either written form or language. And if it's written form, that's what carries over. Unfortunately, language, as it's said, doesn't carry into the air forever. But what's written has been around for a while. But basically, if there's any truth to what the written accounts say, it was observed in nature. So everything points to nature as being where it stems from in the observations. Therefore, I am next focused on going to the source. That doesn't mean I'm not looking at all these accounts into the past, but going to nature as a source where I can understand more things. Anything that's left as a message to humans who can interpret it. I think we are great receptors. It's interesting. There are a few animals that can lie, but humans do it the best. But it's also, we're the only ones, even though other animals can lie, trees typically don't. The plant kingdom does not, although they do use trickery, like the Venus flytrap and stuff like that. But they do not lie in the sense that they can defy nature, or if you want to call it anything else. I'm keeping it nature for now. Humans defy nature. Humans can, they do. And that's an interesting concept. Because none of the other animals in the animal kingdom, plant kingdom, any other kingdom, defy nature in a way that we do. And it's interesting that that's the case. And what does that represent? Either in the spiritual context or even in the material concept, is nature tries to find its own balance, so it keeps going on its cycle. And it feels like humans, certain humans, mind you, not all, just like not all humans lie. All humans have lied, or most have the ability to lie, but some people try not to. Like today is a day dedicated. Can you just think of it think of this? April Fool's Day, All Fool's Day, the 1st of April, a day all over the world. I'm not sure if it's all over the world, but all over the United States and other places, other countries, day dedicated on fooling someone, either through lying or pulling a prank that's not real, just on a day. Although what's good is it's not, people will do these lies as harmless and things like that, but it's still dedicated on deception. Right? We have a day dedicated to deception. That's humanity for you. And well, it's nature does not have a day like that. Nature does not have a day where, okay, I'm going to fool all of the inhabitants on Earth with a big joke. So what's interesting is if you do go and look up the Gregorian calendar, which today the solar calendar is based off of, you'll get into a lot of different things. And one of the things that you'll see is that, well, with the Gregorian calendar, the new year started on January. And if you even look up, and again, I'm going to look up where most people look up so everyone can find it, is when was the start of the new year before Gregorian calendar, and you'll come up with a bunch of things. So I'll just go to the history.com. People can go to history.com for history. I'm sorry. That's where most of the masses will look. But even then, you can find so many of these little things that you may not have noticed before. It always takes more looks, because the more you learn, not just the exoteric, the esoteric, but not even the esoteric, you'll get to, and hopefully I get to, is the source, where it's not even known by the people who think that they know. Because I think with all the signs and symbolism that people look into with the Illuminati, Freemasonry, and all of that stuff, they're signs made by man, and it's for and the signs that they make and the sigils and whatever. It's based on what their interpretations are for those who aren't in the know, for those who are in the know. But then again, are these symbols found in nature? And if they are found in nature, then it's not theirs. Again, they're using that symbol that they find out in nature, which does not lie, and use it for their own ends. What those ends are, I don't know yet. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm trying to get to that point. So even here in history.com, New Year's Day, there's a new calendar on, talks about Julius Caesar because he came up with the Julian calendar, where he enlisted the aid of Sosigenes, I don't know if that's how you say it, an Alexandrian astronomer, who advised him to do away with the lunar cycle entirely and follow the solar year, as did the Egyptians. The year was calculated to be 365 and 1/4 days, and Julian and Caesar added 67 days to 46 BC, making 45 BC begin on January 1st rather than in March. So that just, it doesn't tell you directly, but basically that March was the start of the new year before the Julian calendar started. Now, I saw on another thing that there used to be All Fool's Day, and like maybe I'll just look that up again. And I'm going to go back to that, so don't worry about it. Let's look at April Fool's origin. So, April Fool's Day again, we'll go to the first one that comes up, which is history.com. And here it says, and this is something I would probably want to look up more. So, although April Fool's Day, also called All Fool's Day, has been celebrated for several countries by different cultures, its exact origins remain a mystery. Some historians speculate that April Fool's Day dates back to 1582, when France switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, as called for by the Council of Trent in 1563. People who were slow to get the news or failed to recognize that the start of the new year had moved to January 1 and continued to celebrate it during the last week of March through April 1st became the butt of jokes and hoaxes, which is weird, and it doesn't line up very good. It's like, this is why I find inconsistencies, and this is just on history.com too. Here it says that this is before the Julian calendar. The new year was started on January 1st rather than March. Yet here it says that, hey, this was back in before the Gregorian calendar, where it was celebrated from March through April 1st. So whatever it is, whether it was through the introduction of the Julian calendar or the Gregorian calendar, and the dates vary widely, almost 1600 years of difference, but the start of the new year mostly began the last week of March. You could say near the beginning of the spring equinox. So it's odd to have it begin on January 1st. So that's how much have changed in even the last couple hundred years. Oh man. Okay, that was weird. My channel was not found on DLive, so I had to make a little stop there. Never had that happen. So that's just one interpretation that historians have thought, but I just thought that was worth looking into. That I may look more into that is why would they change the new year from March? What would be the point of that? Aside from religious means, maybe there's a better meaning for it. But one thing that I did not know, and this is more that they're telling us, and this is again exoteric, more that you think about it, the more you look into it, the more that you focus on the details, the more you might find something. So here it says, after that, he also decreed that every 4 years a day be added to February, thus theoretically keeping his calendar from falling out of step. Shortly after Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC, Mark Antony changed the name of the month Quintilis to Julius, July, to honor him. Later, The month of Sextilis was renamed Augustus after its successor. What's funny is, or what's interesting, is the names of the month. Okay, so if we look at quintilis, that would be meaning fifth. I guess fifth month, maybe. That's what the illis means. But if you have quintuplets, that's usually 5, right? Is that right? Yeah. Wait. Let me make sure I'm right. Quintuplets. Yeah, 5 children born to the same mother at one birth. Quintuplets. Yeah. Now you have sextilis, which could be 6, right? And also sex. 6. I don't know why they incorporate that. So there are times of the month. But what's interesting is July is the 7th month and not the 5th. August is the 8th month, not 6. So why is there two months difference between what was changed and what was? So that's something I'm looking into, and I think I may have found some hints that it used to be a 10-month calendar in the year and not 12 months. And another thing that makes me think about it is if we actually look on the months of the year, and I looked up quintilis because I was just wondering, and it explains it there, even on Wikipedia. Same thing with sextilis, tells you more about it there. Now, if we look at the month, let's just look at the Gregorian calendar, right? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. Now we get to September. Sept is 7, Oct is 8, Nouv is 9, Deca is 10. Or is it? Can it be 12 too? Because decahedron. Let's see. I think that's the number deca stand for. Factor of 10. Yeah, okay, 10. So sorry, I just have to check my own probability of being wrong and making a mistake. And I'm glad to do it because when I'm researching, I have no one else to do it. But of course, on these live streams, you can do it. You can check me and say, "Hey, you're wrong." It's like, oh, okay, I'll look into it. So here, all of these represent different things, but when we get to Sept, Oct, Nov, and Deca, that's easily seen as 7, 8, 9, 10. So 2 months were added somehow into a 10-year calendar to make it 12. I've looked into it. I'm going to have to look more into it. I may have a dedicated live stream about that. But basically, no one finds that odd. It's like, hey, why is September 9th when it's Sept is 7? Why is October 10 when it's Oct is 8? It's like, I didn't even notice it till now, and I'm 40. So, you know, it's weird that we have to revisit all these things. The more knowledge that you uncover about things, the more that you revisit things and look at it from a different light. So again, going into nature and focusing nature as a source, I think can cover a lot of things, because as much as I want to go back, and I do, to things like Taoism, heck, maybe even Confucianism and Buddhism, but Taoism seems a lot different, and I dig it a little bit more. But of course, I might have preconceived notions of Confucianism and Buddhism as well until I give it another look. Again, I haven't looked since a couple of decades. Now, one thing that I liked about the I Ching, I don't know how to say it the way the Chinese say it. Maybe I even shouldn't. A lot of people would pronounce it as I Ching, but it's I Ching. A lot of it's by divination, but actually, what I found that when there's like a introduction to the I Ching and things like that, it didn't really dive into the I Ching. It's just more of the sources of nature is where they're gathering it. And I'm finding that more prevalent. The more I go into diving into things, is I see the controllers of religion focusing more on anything that's nature-based, as paganism, as heresy, as devil's work. But the thing is, the devil lies. At least that's what it's supposed to be, pulling tricks. Nature doesn't. Nature does not lie. It represents itself as itself. It doesn't have to deceive. It doesn't deceive for any purpose. It has no reason to. It just represents itself as it is. Humans, on the other hand, we deceive for a lot of different reasons. Even when we think we're not deceiving people, we do. For certain events, like you'll go to. This is me in itself. Okay? And then you may see me at a job and you'll see me, hey, why are you wearing that? That's not what you typically wear. It's like, well, it's the rules of this place. Not the rules of nature. It's the rules of this place. Man-made. Man-organized. Maybe you're going into just going out to party. Heck. And you're trying to, if you're a man, you're straight, you're looking to pick up women for date or just a one-night stand thing. You're going to go, not in this. You're going to go in something a little bit more trendy. Same thing with women. Women who go out, they're not going to go out like they do when they're around at home, which would be something, wearing something comfortable. They're going to go out something uncomfortable. They're going to apply makeup. They're going to do whatever they can to attract the opposite sex if they're straight in the current society. And with the rules of society, it's unfortunately the way things are. So is that bad? Could be. Is it necessary? Not really, but in context for what they're trying to do within the society and society's venues, yeah. So it's another one of these things that you don't have to do, but we do anyway. I want to take us, or at least take a path, show others the path, maybe share it, to see these understandings that have been out in thousands of years, at least supposed thousands of years. That's what they say. Late 19th century BC. That's when the I Ching was, which is known as Classic of Changes or Book of Changes. Okay, that's pretty long time ago, 9th century BC. And then other books, other ancient manuscripts, all of this would be thought of, derived from somewhere. Where is it? Just someone who had a great mind? Possibly. Maybe they just understood. They've got time on their hands. Rather than watching man-made stuff like television and things like that, they would go out there and observe nature. That's what the Mayans did. They go, hey, there's a pattern to the stars. There's a pattern to the sun. There's a pattern to the moon. And so as long as these centuries have gone by, the pattern didn't change. We're able to go ahead and predict these patterns, not just days, weeks, months, years, but decades and centuries. We won't know about the centuries until our descendants do it, but then, descendants come and go, hey, we've had this system for centuries now. Like my great grandfather or grandmother, etc., was able to figure out what was going to happen today as far as the stars, the constellations, the patterns, the sun, the moon, all of that. And it's like, wow, how did they do it? So how did they do it? They went out and they observed the pattern of nature. Nature doesn't lie. Nature doesn't just change things up. And one of the things that comes up is, again, the signs, symbolism, sayings, order out of chaos, and those who look into the occult and secret societies, they hear order out of chaos a lot. And the thing is well, where does the chaos come from? Chaos doesn't come from nature. Nature is ordered. There's pattern to it. There's predictability within nature. Nature doesn't all of a sudden change things up for no reason. It finds a way to balance itself, predictable in that part. But no, man, oh man. Man does know how to create chaos. Man can, again, defy nature. And I'm not even going over to the God part. I'm just talking about nature itself. Can defy nature, create chaos out of it, put it all as sorts, where it causes nature to balance itself. And as man creates this chaos, as the people who are orchestrating it, managing it, they're trying to create order. They're saying, hey, this chaos was created. It wasn't by us. We were just doing things and you guys followed us, and therefore now we've got all this chaos. But we've got the answers to it. You guys can't figure out the answers. You guys created the chaos, even though they're the ones who created the chaos. It's people who followed them. And they go, here's how we solve it. And so they go, oh, okay, let's go ahead and listen to them. They know how to solve it. They don't solve it. What they do is they make things worse. And they go, oh, great. We made things worse. Of course they still don't blame the people in charge. All right, we created this mess. All right, what's the answer? And they look up to those leaders who created the chaos and created more chaos by having the answer for it. They go, oh, here's the answer. Though it's a method to create more chaos. And here's people like me and a couple of others saying, oh my goodness, you guys are going to fall for this again? They created all this mess. They're telling you how to fix it by lying and making more of a mess of things. And you guys are all in on it. You guys are like, oh, it doesn't matter. We might have been fooled the first time. It must have been honest mistake. Second time, oh, you know, they thought they had it. We agreed with them, so the fault's on us. Like, third time now, are you guys gonna finally go, hey, yeah, it's your fault for following them, and also the fault lies in them, who are the ones who orchestrated and managed it and said, hey, go along with us. We know what we're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Well, maybe they do know what they're doing, and they're lying to you straight off the bat. So then why would you follow them still? You're just following liars. So you've got people who are either incompetent or culpable, or either not worthy of leading because they keep making mistakes, or they know they're making mistakes on purpose and they're culpable of that, and they're making sure that you follow along with the mistakes. That way they stay in power because they put the blame on the followers. Just like how I like using cultural references too, because if you look at how the SJW movement is and how it's reflecting the comic book industry, how it's affecting the movie industry, how it's affecting the comedy industry, how it's diving into everything. You got this political ideology being pushed throughout of the cultural paradigm, and you're just seeing a lot of people going, we don't like this, we don't want this, we just want the stories, excuse me, we just want what we had before, which it didn't really dive into a lot of this too much. But the narrative is being pushed. It's being pushed on all sides. It means there's a reason for it. There's an important reason for it that they know, but we don't know. And what do these industries put the blame on when sales or reviews don't go their way? They go, well, it's the blame lays on the fans. That's pretty much what's being pushed. So just like the leaders in the industry that are driving everything as far as industry, politics, legislation, whatever, they go, hey, there's chaos out there and we're here to solve it. And they push more chaos, and the people who are expecting order, they go, hey, this isn't solving anything. And the leaders will say, well, you guys are to blame. You guys are the ones doing it. We're the ones that say, do this, and you guys shouldn't have trusted us. We got it wrong. But then it's just a cycle that repeats itself. It's like, all right, now we've got all these movies and in comedy and saying, hey, you guys don't like it? Well, that's your problem. It's not us. You know, if you don't like it, don't watch. But you're to blame for the failure of what is our success, etc. But no matter what, they're going to keep doing and keep putting the blame not on themselves. They're going to put the blame on the people who are constantly following them. So we're seeing that pattern more and more. That's easy to see. But you pretty much have to be outside that system to really see it. And it's just a differentiation. Okay, we're just always going to be fooled. I really need to really structure and order a lot of these talking points better. I may have to write notes so I could. A lot of this is, of course, everything that jumps into my head, and I'm trying to explain it out to other people. So, again, chaos is created, and it's created by man. The order. We can easily fix things. We know how to create order. It's just go back to nature. Going back to nature is a simple plan. That's what a lot of people are doing. They don't really know the answers to how to fix all this chaos created by man. One of them is stop what we're doing. Let's just stop. Let's not fix the problem by creating more wars. Let's not fix the problem by creating more debt. Let's not fix the problem by doing more of the same. Let's just stop. That's part one. Part two is let's get back to nature, how things are done without neglecting nature. And most people would go, yeah, that makes sense. People go, no, that doesn't make sense. Of course, they're fully indoctrinated in the human kind system. Or they'll go full reverse. It's like, man created this, women will solve it, or white people cause this, black people will solve it, whatever, right? There's always that opposite thing. And then the opposite, which is the what do they call it, the controlled opposition. That's controlled opposition for you. It's like, oh, you guys think it was all our fault? Well, let's just see what the masses think. Oh, the masses think it's all right. It's time for the controlled opposition to come in. They'll solve it. It's like all of a sudden, nope, it's just more of the same. What is this dichotomy that we're seeing? And why do we keep getting the same? Left, right, blue, red, white, black, all of it. It's a man-made system. It's a false balancing act. Again, act. And that's why a lot of the people who you see as the ones who sell out, and you see their names and you see their faces, they know how to act. All this is an act. People, you can sort of see their tells, whether they're lying or telling the truth. It's a select number of people who can fully realize it, reading their body languages and things like that. But again, a lot of people aren't gonna notice that stuff. They don't even notice stuff that they read. It's right there, plain text. Whatever you read, they tell you more of the details that it shouldn't be there. Like, they won't ever question, hey, rather than in March, 4 words. Rather than in March, that's when the new year was before Caesar. And maybe here, New Year had moved to January 1st and continued to celebrate it during the last week of March through April 1st. It tells you right there. And then if you look into, hey, they changed the months from quintilis and sextilis, 5 and 6, to July and August, 7th of the month and 8th of the month. What the heck happened? When did the two months get introduced? And you look at September, which is 7, October is 8, November is 9, December is 10. Yet it represents 7th represents 9, 8 represents 10, 9 represents 11, 10 represents 12. How the heck did that happen? And you keep going back and back in all of this. Yeah, all well and good that you're gonna look into it and go, okay, things keep changing, and it's us that keep changing things. But is it changed on a whim? Whatever. Is there a reason to it? Can we fathom out what the people who are in charge are orchestrating and getting into? Why are they butting in all this time? Maybe it's not necessary. And I think that's why we start seeing a leap towards preppers, right? We've got a lot of people who become preppers and going, get ready to live on your own and stuff like that. I think it's good. There's going to be more control as there's more order, supposed order to be created out of all the chaos that keeps being created. Well, again, man system, the system that's out there that's being controlled, is to get the system out of whack. Is to, maybe one of the plan is to get the people to get nature so out of whack that nature, in order to balance itself, to do something drastic. Maybe that's how the floods were started, if not the biblical instance of whether it's a demiurge or God, whatever. And we're going to go more into that because the Gnostic stuff, that is some interesting stuff. But then I also think, again, there's more of that that's been infiltrated and inverted and made to get people more towards the more controlled religious aspect of what should be. And we're all gonna have differences. Hey, people who are Christian, you're Christian. People who believe in one thing, you believe in one thing. I am not gonna fall in towards a belief. I like thinking. I like think of stories. I like presenting different ideas. That's where I'll keep going. The things I know, I think I'm gonna keep looking into. I know them. Some other people know them too. The interesting part is when you start looking into and diving into things, is you have no association with other people, yet you're gonna come up with the same conclusion that they had, or the same experience that they have. And then that same experience is, wait, how do we get to the same experience when leading up to it, we had nothing in common at all? Even if they explain how they got to it and how they experienced it. And it's nothing the way that you were preparing for it and expecting the experience to be. The experience comes out the same every time. And I think that's one of the incredibles of the ayahuasca with the plant. Nature, we're taking nature's, I think it's a way to communicate at the base level, at the source level, to Mother Earth, Gaia, Sophia, whatever. We gain wisdom from it. We're protected by her, especially the first time. But the lessons come from the very first easy lesson to harder and harder lessons. And again, people are scared. People fear. People who truly do not fear are the people who put their faith. I guess faith is somewhat of a belief, but and for me, look, I'm not scared of death. I almost want it to, but there are reasons for me to stay alive. Family is definitely one. But I'm not fearful of the unknowing of where I'm going to get to. I'm not fearful of the experience, whether it's going to be an evil experience because I can fight it with my good experience. As I chose a side, and the side is good, and that's all that needs to be said. And so if people who think that they are protected by God or whatever belief that it is, but yet you are afraid to do something like, say, experience ayahuasca, then do you truly believe in what you believe in? Because what you believe in is you're saved no matter what, as long as you abide by the rules within that belief. So you shouldn't be afraid. You're protected, right? Well, you don't even need to believe with the ayahuasca experience. You're protected in the first place by Mother Nature. And again, you may not even want to go into that. Is it based off of fear? You're probably going to go, no, but really, are you telling yourself the truth? Are you really not afraid? So we go into a lot of these things. And again, back full circle, people who are not showing themselves their real names and their faces, most likely because, well, right now we don't even know their faces or their names, and we can already tell that they're lying just based on how they act. But still, it's even harder to do when you're always talking. People always see your face, they see your mannerisms, they might tell. We might find out one lie. Once we find out that one lie, we can look at all your other videos and go, oh, he's doing the same thing, associated with the lie. Oh, here's another, associate with another lie. And therefore, we've got all these mannerisms. No matter what we say, we realize, hey, this person has a tell. Every time he does this, and look how he says it, look what he does when he does say it. He knows he's lying. We know he's lying now because it's a tell. So that's why the powers that be, not just out of fear, the people who are agents, they're afraid. That's why they don't show themselves or their name. They're either afraid of the opposition, they're afraid of their rulers and people who control them, telling them what to do or leading them. If maybe they're not, maybe they're just useful idiots and they're doing things for free in the name of these controllers and whatever. And whatever it is, they're fearful. That's fine. That's just another thing added to the list. But again, there's good reasons for the anonymity for them. I mean, liars and controllers, they want to remain hidden. It's for their protection. And of course, they've got very well paid actors in their stead to keep the actor going for them. And of course, if any of them reveal who the person is that's orchestrating things for them when they're not supposed to, well, we're going to find out that they're not going to live very long. They're not going to, and not only are they not going to live very long, they're going to have everything stripped from them. Their money, their power, their influence. And those are signs that we won't see it, at least the majority of us. Because when that happens to an individual, it's not going to be reported. It's just going to happen very quietly. And then it takes someone to go, hey, whatever happened to this person? And then you might see a very small snippet of like a local newspaper article of an obituary or something like that, or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, makes sense. That's what usually happens. But of course, when it's a well-known figure who tries to do good, and it's hard to keep away, like even the big names can't even stop them. But then again, why would they? So sometimes you think, okay, controlled opposition. It's hard. It is very difficult, even for those who got to where we are now and are continuing to go to know more. And people just don't want to know. It's too much for people to understand. I can't even break it down into a video that's less than an hour sometimes. I mean, I could do a quick point by point, but will that necessarily drive you into researching on your own to understand it? I mean, even now, okay, nature does not lie. That's a simple statement. Can't prove that wrong. Can't prove nature lying. Doesn't happen. The anomalies don't exist within nature. The anomalies exist within the scientific explanation. Think of it that way. Because the explanations of man, whether incapable or something is flawed and there needs to be a patch, it's there by man. We create it. We fix it. We create the patch. Nature doesn't. Nature doesn't lie at any point. Nature doesn't have a patch. It has a predictability of, okay, this happens. Nature's going to need to balance it. How is nature going to go about it? I think a lot of those who are in the know and control things, at least how we tend to think of as control, I would say the controllers of the masses. Maybe that's the best way to put it. The controllers of the masses understand nature, how to read nature, understand how nature will react. And I think that's their biggest influence, using nature against herself and against what she wants, because I doubt she wants to destroy in order to keep those that she protects in safety. How does she choose? What's the best choice? And we're seeing signs of it. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing signs of it. It's hard to ignore. And I think what's the hard part is showing people, all the people who are stating, oh, these signs aren't from nature. These signs are from man, or hey, it's QAnon. QAnon sees it, or it's this and this so and so person, this truther, that truther, etc. It's like it's not. I think it's just more of a thing for you to just start looking more into the signs and symbolism created by man for other men and women to look at and interpret, whether it's satanic or not. Really doesn't matter, because it can be a lie. But again, what we need to look into is not whether it's a lie or not by something that was created by humankind or certain humans, is to actually look at the source. The source is always going to go back to nature. It's the one thing we can rely on every time, 100%, with no questions asked. Nature will not lie. That's it. And thus, knowing that nature does not lie, are we going to look for answers within nature? Well, most people don't. They ignore nature. That's why we're covering everything within nature up, so we can no longer observe nature, or we can no longer communicate within nature's essence, whether it's Mother Ayahuasca, etc., Gaia, Sophia. We're doing everything, or at least the powers, the controllers of the masses do not want anyone to look into that. They don't want anyone to experience that, because once that experience becomes real, it's realer than your belief system. It's going to change your belief system. But then there's also the other point, is the controllers, or I wouldn't say the controllers, the representatives, I would say, representatives of the ayahuasca experience, they are also changing the meaning of that experience to something else. Again, more people are going to listen to them than they are me, or just even within your own experience. Just listen to what they have to say about the ayahuasca experience. They will interpret and say what that experience was and what it means, but they only interpret it in a way that it affects their ego and their drive for making that narrative different than what the real validity is within the experience itself. So you're just gonna have to try it to do it. Hi, Rousum from DLive, and thank you, Tony Rumble, just for the follow. So that's it, I guess. Nature does not lie. What we need to do is get back to reading nature rather than reading books, other things from humans. If we want truth, whatever manuscript that we're reading from should have a way so we can understand that truth on our own. Just like what we do with scientific experiments. We expect the scientific experiments to be repeatable, for us to repeat these experiments and come up with the same results as that experiment occurred. So thank you for the lemon, Ralsum. Thank you. And so we expect the same, or we should expect the same for any manuscript saying this is the truth, this is what has occurred. But if we can't experience it on our own, then it's almost useless. We've got to make sure it can point to where we can see the truth of it within our own experience, and not just take it on their word. And if these manuscripts and documents and written accounts can show us that. I think, and of course, the controllers of the masses, I'm pretty sure, have redacted or changed a lot of these things, so we can't ever find those correlations and links where we can observe the pattern that nature presents, where we can see it. And again, all of that, all the time, you get paganism or heretics. Whenever anyone who's looking into nature, or witches and magicians, nature is not evil in any way, shape, or form. Nature has a pattern of life and death. Death isn't evil. It's an act that occurs, but for more life to occur. It's a cycle. A tree in itself is not evil or good. Anything out there, any tool, anything that's there, it just has no alignment. Humans assign that alignment. There's something deeper than that. What we are, humans are. We defy so many things, and we do have an essence of good and evil. We can do many things with tools that are good and evil. Excuse me. So that's just something to be aware of when you go inside a cave. That in nature, a cave, unless it's man-made, a cave in itself is not good or evil. A lot of things, it's just nature. Nature is what is. That needs to happen because it happens that way all the time. It doesn't skip a beat. Even if you look at it from a mathematical point of view, it will have its mathematical formulas, which doesn't deviate. It may deviate a little, but doesn't deviate from the whole. There's little snippets of differentiation, but the overall, it's basically always gonna repeat that basic pattern. Otherwise, yeah, again, what's the purpose of observation, scientific experiment, and estimation and calculations? What's the point of any of that with what's observed within nature? If nature's gonna go chaotic and do whatever it wants whenever it wants, there wouldn't be any point to it at all. One thing we can always rely on is nature does not lie. And that's it for this one. And thank you for everyone joining in, and we'll see.